So yes, I apologize for the interruption. We were talking about lenses within the family systems therapy. The first one is the individual family lens. We talk about the positives and the negatives of how an individual acts within a family. We try to take the perspective or the lens of that individual, how they might see the world, how they perceive things, and we try to look at the family system through their eyes. The second one is the teleological lens, where we try to look at things from the perspective of finding the causes, goals, endpoints, and purposes of some of our discussions. What is the purpose of all this? Why are we here? When we look at the teleological lens, we try to think about what we want the family to be in the future and how we could possibly get there. We talk about sequencing when it comes to lenses, kind of tracking patterns of interactions. Sometimes there's embedded patterns that repeat themselves, and oftentimes these are very unconscious. And we map it out, and we try to develop a more useful pattern. So what we do is we say, okay, whenever I bring this up, Mom usually says this, and then Dad kind of supports her, and this is how the pattern goes, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Obviously, somehow this pattern is not working. We need to change something up so that there's none of this back and forth, and all of a sudden it goes over here. And this new kind of route now works for us better than the old pattern. Maybe it's, daughter asks for the car keys, Dad says no, and Mom supports it, and daughter says please, and then Mom says no, and then it goes back and forth, and then daughter ends up running to her room and crying. Maybe there's a way here within this that we can kind of reach a different endpoint or a different goal and somehow get a better understanding of the situation that can work out so that the presenting problem goes away. So we do that through sequencing. We look at patterns and how things kind of unfold within the family. We look at the developmental lens, which is more time-based. And it's really interesting. It talks about transitions within the family cycle. I mean, this happens over years and years and years and years. This happens over lifespans. So for example, you're raised by your family, but then all of a sudden it comes time to leave the nest. Maybe it's college time or whatever it is. It's time for the individual to become independent. At some point thereafter, perhaps the individual marries or couples up. And then at some point they have children of their own. They're now starting another family within the family, so all things are kind of expanding. And then all of a sudden their kids become adolescents. And then their kids leave the house. And then at some point the kids need to take care of the parents. So we talk about the developmental lens as a way of kind of looking at the family system over the course of an extended period of time. This is a way to kind of see how things are going to change over decades, perhaps, or generations, perhaps, and maybe within that, understanding that, we might kind of be able to tackle the presenting problem a little bit better. We need to look at things through a multicultural lens, where we kind of challenge the privilege and the norms, and we try to infuse values of diversity. And we need to kind of reframe the dominant culture that is kind of imposed upon us. Our families are, again, systems within systems. And you can think about perhaps how a family sometimes changes the systems and how that system might change the family. Okay, so you have a family that's very tightly knit in Mexico. And somehow they migrate to the United States. Now they are within a different system. There's different outside factors now. There's the American factors that are influencing the family as opposed to the Mexican factors, and how that culture might change the family. What might be a norm for a Mexican family is not necessarily a norm for an American family, and how that will specifically affect some of the younger generations. When they go to school with some of their peers and see them living very different lives from what their parents were used to. So we pay attention to the cultural lens of things and how that affects the family. We talk about a gender lens, what it means to be a male or a female in this family. Some of the Islamic cultures have a very different way of looking at sexes and gender, and what their roles are and what their expectations are. Even more interesting is when you look at the gender lens and you combined it with the cultural lens. In a country like Egypt or Yemen, you might see some of these things kind of clashing or changing, how the culture is changing the gender roles, or how the gender roles are changing the culture. And we bring about how this affects the family. And we also talk about the process lens. What is happening between the people, the relationships themselves, the process of how we communicate. Are we aggressive? Are we passive? Is it working or is it not working? How we communicate is the process that we look at, and we try to look at things through that lens. We try to understand how something is either working or not working via communication. So again, the key points of family systems therapy is the focus on the family over the individual, the act of bringing in the family units to have their say, so that they can kind of talk about what they see and also what their role is in the current system and what their role will be in the future system. We kind of try to look at things from a number of different perspectives. We look at things from the systems within systems approach or argument, and it's really a way to change the family. It might be the purpose of changing the family for an individual, or maybe an individual needs to change for the sake of the family. But we empower the family. These are the people that affect us most in life. These are the people that we live with, and these are the people that we're going to build support off of as we make changes for the better in our lives. So again, this is the family systems perspective when it comes to therapy. That's it for these theories. That's all we'll be covering in this class. There is a multicultural chapter that I want you to read in the text, which is meant to kind of get you to explore different cultures and different ideas and perspectives, and how they might come into play when you are dealing with people of a different background or different culture, so that you can kind of at least empathize or understand a little bit better about diversity. So make sure you guys please read the text. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me or give me a call. I'd be happy to help you out. If you are listening to this and the final is about a week away, I will be sending out a post to describe what the final will entail, where the final will be taken, when it will be taken. So stay tuned for that information. And I want to thank you for watching. And great. Have a good day.